For 36 years, from 1788 to 1824, wealthy families across Virginia and the Carolinas sent their most troublesome sons to a secluded institution known as Blackwood Seminary. Not one of them ever returned home. Church registries listed 263 enrollments during those decades. There were records of tuition payments, generous donations, and letters praising spiritual progress. There were no graduation records, no ordinations, no burial notices for most of the missing young men, and for more than a century, no one asked why. Colonial Virginia was a land built on appearance. Plantations stretched across the Tidewater region like kingdoms unto themselves. Tobacco wealth flowed through shipping ports. Families guarded reputations more fiercely than fortunes. And secrets, particularly those involving trade, slavery, or politics, were carefully buried beneath layers of charm and piety. It was in Henley County, deep within dense woodland 30 miles from Richmond, that Reverend Nathaniel Blackwood established his seminary. Nathaniel Blackwood was born in 1572, the second son of a merchant whose prosperity depended on discreet arrangements few dared question. Unlike his elder brother, who inherited the family's shipping empire, Nathaniel possessed a quieter talent, an unnerving understanding of weakness. He understood guilt. He understood fear. Most of all, he understood leverage. When he announced plans to build a Catholic seminary in predominantly Protestant Virginia, society regarded him as eccentric. Religious enthusiasm was preferable to commercial scandal. No one realized Blackwood was constructing something far more profitable than a school. Blackwood Seminary was magnificent. Gothic stone buildings rose from forest clearing like a cathedral misplaced in wilderness. Imported masons crafted arched windows. The chapel's stained glass glowed at sunset. Its library rivaled small colleges. It looked legitimate. It felt holy. The first 12 students arrived in spring of 1788. All were sons of powerful families. All had seen something they should not have seen. A ledger that didn't match. A shipment that contained more than tobacco. A meeting held past midnight with armed men. Each family paid a steep enrollment fee and signed discreet agreements emphasizing privacy. They believed they were buying redemption. In truth, they were funding captivity. The first suspicion arose in 1790. Daniel Pembroke, eldest son of a Charleston exporter, had been sent after questioning discrepancies in cargo manifests. When months passed without his usual fiery letters, his family dispatched a trusted overseer, Elias Ward, to investigate. Blackwood welcomed him warmly. Evening prayers echoed through the chapel. Students walked in orderly lines. Candles flickered against stone. But something was wrong. The young men moved too precisely. They spoke in perfect unison. Their faces bore the serene blankness of carved saints. Elias counted. 21 figures. Blackwood had claimed 38 students were enrolled. And Daniel, if that hollow-eyed figure was indeed Daniel, did not react when Elias whispered his name. When Elias reported back, the Pembrokes chose silence. Their son appeared alive. Demanding his return might reopen matters best forgotten. And so the payments continued. Within months, patterns emerged among visiting families. Letters home grew shorter. Handwriting changed. Sons expressed gratitude for discipline and humility. Formerly rebellious young men praised family business practices they once condemned. What none of them knew was that the evening wine served in crystal goblets carried measured doses of laudanum.
Blackwood had consulted discreet physicians. Small quantities created compliance without visible deterioration. Combined with isolation and relentless spiritual conditioning, it dissolved resistance. New students enjoyed comfortable quarters. After several months, those who proved progressive were relocated to private study chambers in the limestone beneath the seminary. The basement rooms were furnished, the doors locked from the outside. By 1796, Blackwood's operation had evolved into something extraordinary. He called it, in private notes, the Covenant. Each student underwent confession sessions, intensive spiritual counseling. During these sessions, young men, lonely and drugged, revealed everything: illegal slave routes, bribes to magistrates, fraudulent land acquisitions. Blackwood documented it all in meticulous leather-bound ledgers stored in his tower study. Families soon found tuition rising. When they protested, Blackwood gently referenced conversations their sons had shared. The implication was clear: continue your support or face exposure. Most paid. The unraveling began with Samuel Ashcroft. Samuel's elder brother, Thomas Ashcroft, had been sent to Blackwood in 1797 after objecting to their father's involvement in unlawful maritime trade. When Samuel visited in early 1799, he found Thomas altered beyond recognition. Thomas spoke calmly of profit margins and labor efficiencies. He quoted scripture to justify practices he once despised. But Samuel noticed details others ignored: dilated pupils in bright daylight, a tremor in the hands. And when Samuel mentioned their childhood horse, Thomas showed no flicker of memory. Samuel did not confront his family. Instead, he began investigating.
Through shipping records and merchant contacts, Samuel traced unusual deliveries to Blackwood Seminary: medical supplies, restraints, quantities of opiates far exceeding any educational need. He discovered that while 263 students had enrolled over 11 years, fewer than 30 could be confirmed as returning home. The rest vanished from public record. His search led him to Eleanor Whitfield, widow of a physician who had died suddenly 2 years earlier. Dr. Whitfield's journals contained disturbing entries. Reverend Blackwood had consulted him regarding sustained opiate administration. There were sketches, anatomical diagrams describing symptoms that could be induced to resemble consumption. The doctor's final note read, "The covenant is not salvation, it is erasure." Tucked within a hidden compartment was a list: 27 names labeled concluded, 12 more under pending. Thomas Ashcroft's name appeared among them. Samuel and Eleanor devised a desperate plan. They would present evidence to select colonial officials while arranging a coordinated inspection under pretense of financial audit. But Blackwood anticipated betrayal. On May 21, 1799, Samuel and a small party entered the seminary's lower chambers under cover of darkness. What they found shattered any illusion of spiritual mission. The limestone corridors extended far deeper than plans indicated. Cells lined the walls. Shelves of labeled vials glistened under lamplight. In a concealed infirmary, Thomas lay heavily sedated, his breathing shallow, skin pale. Beside his cot sat a ledger detailing a staged decline, respiratory weakness, spiritual fatigue, anticipated passing within 7 days. But Thomas was not the only horror. In a hidden chamber behind Blackwood's private office, Samuel discovered crates of correspondence, not only blackmail material, but coded letters exchanged with British operatives. Blackwood had been selling intelligence.
shipping vulnerabilities, political divisions, names of colonial officials susceptible to influence. The covenant was not merely extortion, it was espionage.
Blackwood confronted them calmly. "You misunderstand," he said, standing in lamplight like a bishop before congregation. "These families were already corrupt. I simply preserved order. Secrets, once unleashed, would collapse this colony." He gestured toward the ledgers. "Expose me, and you expose them all, your own father's dealings included." Samuel knew he was right. Destroying Blackwood meant detonating the reputations of Virginia's most powerful families, including his own. But silence meant murder. Samuel had prepared for this. At dawn, Colonial militia, alerted quietly over weeks, surrounded Blackwood Seminary. Simultaneously, Samuel and 17 other families publicly confessed to crimes that had rendered them vulnerable: slave routes, bribes, fraud. The confessions stunned Virginia's elite. By removing Blackwood's leverage, they dismantled his power. The raid uncovered 27 unmarked graves behind the chapel. Blackwood vanished during the chaos. Some claimed he fled to British territory. Others believed loyalists smuggled him away. He was never captured.
Thomas Ashcroft survived, though permanent damage shadowed him. Many rescued students battled lifelong dependency and fractured memory. The scandal reshaped colonial society. Reforms tightened oversight of religious institutions. Commercial regulations increased. Families learned painfully that secrets could become shackles. The seminary stood abandoned for decades. Locals spoke of lights flickering in empty windows. When developers finally cleared the property in 1848, additional tunnels were discovered, suggesting Blackwood's covenant had been larger than even Samuel imagined. Some chambers appeared never fully excavated. Some records were missing. Samuel Ashcroft spent the remainder of his life haunted by two truths: that his brother had nearly died to protect their family's reputation, and that corruption, when hidden for too long, invites predators who understand its value. Blackwood Seminary became a caution whispered among Virginia's old families, a reminder that fear is the currency of tyrants and silence is their accomplice. Yet one question lingers. If Nathaniel Blackwood escaped, did the covenant end in Virginia? Or did it simply move, taking root elsewhere, where desperate families still preferred secrecy over truth? History records the scandal, but forests keep their own memories, and some foundations once laid in darkness are never fully unearthed.